what you doing?
Morse code.
Morse code? What's that?
Morse code is a code of dots and dashes, or dits and das, created by Samuel Finley Breeze Morse in the late 1700s. He created it because he was frustrated with overseas communications and their lack of speed. While involved in a conversation about electromagnetism on a ship from the US to Europe, he realized electric signals through a wire could be used to convey messages.
Oh, so that must have sparked the idea of creating some kind of code based on sparks in a circuit and the absence thereof.
Joe, are we talking about the most effective means of communication of the 19th century, Morse code?
Yes, we are.
Did you know that Samuel Morse invented the telegraph that could transmit Morse code?
Whoa, that's so cool! Anyways, Morse code revolutionized communication since the presence of electricity could be seen at any part of the wire, and the current could move a pencil at the other end.
Tell me, friend, how did Samuel Morse get Morse code integrated into society?
That's a good question. He decided to hold a demonstration of his invention to pique the interest of investors. He sent a code through a circuit and allowed a pencil to dangle over a paper and write out the dots and dashes and spaces transmitted over the telegraph. One man named Alfred Vail was interested.
Yes, sir?
I'm sorry, but I don't see myself investing in something that can become impractical. People are stubborn in their ways, and I don't see how they would want to change from snail mail to this.
Yes, sir? Hi, I'm Alfred Vail. I own a brass and ironworks factory. I'd like you to explain a little more first, but I would be interested in investing.
Great. We'll offer you a fourth of the interest in the telegraph.
Next, he had to get the idea to Congress.
Hello, Congress. I'm here in Washington, D.C. today with my partners to request funding to test my invention, the telegraph. Using Morse code, the telegraph could create a universal way of communication through sending electromagnetic signals.
I'm sorry, Mr. Morse, but we know very little of science. We're going to have to pass on this one.
Then, Morse went far and wide trying to get a patent to sell his invention to the European people. Finally, after 12 years, Congress decided to offer him funding to test his invention. He and a team laid a 40-mile telegraph line between Baltimore and D.C. Finally, they were ready to test their invention.
And in the blink of the eye, I've transmitted this message from Washington to Baltimore.
Hath God route. Now I shall send the message back to him to prove I received it.
After this, the Pacific Telegraph Act was proposed, which would authorize the Treasury to build a telegraph line from San Francisco to Moscow. The proposal was never accepted, but still international telegraph lines were put up.
Wow, that is so cool. How did Morse decide which letter went with which dot and dash combination?
Actually, funny that you mentioned that. Originally, Morse wanted dots and dashes to correspond with numbers that represented words, rather than just corresponding with letters. It ended up being easier for them to correspond to letters.
Oh, that's so neat.
But to answer your question, Morse wanted to commonly use letters to have shorter codes, like the letter E is just a dot, whereas less common, Q, is dash, dash, dot, dash, dash. Also, Morse code was changed by the International Telecommunications Union in 1865 to account for different character frequencies in other languages.
Thanks for sharing. Justin, I'm interested in why you called Morse code the most effective overseas communication method of its time. Care to elaborate?
Well, as you may know, messages are delivered via snail mail or the Pony Express before Morse code and the telegraph came around. Morse code took over and put the Pony Express out of business, though snail mail was still used. Morse code only required one wire, making it more efficient than Cook and Wheatson's 5-wire telegraph. Quickly, the telegraph operators popped up all over the world.
That Morse code is super important for safety at sea. Like, what was its role in the tragedy of the Titanic?
SOS has been the Morse code translation of danger, and operators are supposed to be alert for this signal. Hundreds of lives could have been saved if operators in California had been on duty. In 1914, the International Convention for Safety of Life at Sea decided that the larger vessels should have a 24-hour radio watch.
One of the more modern instances of Morse code's usefulness was when Vietnam prisoners of war pilot Jeremiah Denton was forced to participate in a video interview about his treatment. Though he had to lie through his teeth, he blinked the words torture in Morse code, alerting the U.S. of his real treatment.
During the Civil War, Morse code proved to be very useful. In one instance, Ulysses S. Grant stated that he had frequent conversations through the telegraph. Any information that was urgent could now be relayed quickly. The Union benefited through this because strategy could now be discussed instantaneously.
Wow. Obviously, there are so many ways that Morse code was used in the history of the United States and the world. His invention was used in the breaking of a large communications barrier.
Yes, Morse code was used to transfer instantaneous messages, which could be used to transfer strategy and signal distress messages. The United States military telegraph service relayed about 6.5 million messages during the Civil War.
Despite the fact that the telegraph is not used anymore and Morse code is not as relevant, the telegraph was still inspired many of the modern-day devices of communications we use today.
Yeah.
Yeah!
Yeah!
Yes.